Be kind, don't be a flamethrower. The following article is by Kathy Brenner. How everyone is a performer in the social media circus. Are you a flamethrower or a firefighter? Have you shared any information or personal thoughts about this COVID-19 pandemic with anyone? Did you get any information about this latest crisis via any source of media? Billy Joel said it so poetically in his song, "We didn't start the fire." The truth is, someone has to start the fire, but often we never really discover who that is. I think it's because once the flamethrower lets loose, more people are interested in fanning the flames than, than attending to the thrower. Isn't that what really a good story does? Don't they fan flames to make the story a page turner? Then who doesn't love a great story? So while we might agree the media is too biased, too liberal, too purist, or too controlled, it doesn't stop us from watching, reading, seeking, and following. We are more busy looking at what others have said, written, posted, commented on, tweeted about, pinned, or shared than we ever been before. Our access to instant media is digital cocaine. The media is often the source of our information, advertisement, education, and socialization. We turn to Google before we seek a real person. We depend on the media for economic, health, political, and environmental information. And we want our media instantly and conveniently. We can't even imagine living in the time when a rider on a horse knocked on doors announcing, "The British are coming." Those were some great stories too, but obviously fairy tales. We must ask our Siri, Google, or whatever our friendly digital minion to service up our weather, directions, menu, news, and music while requesting they adjust our temperatures, turn on our water, and lock our doors. Everything is right at our fingertips. The spectacle of the circus media becomes our entertainment. In the age of wanted now, we have allowed flamethrowers, jugglers, and media magicians to infiltrate our everyday lives. Remember the old telephone game? One person whispered something in another's ear, they shared it to another and another, and by the time that information got to the end of the line, the message may have been quite different than was originally said. Perhaps we aren't just innocent bystanders watching the circus. We might just be the performers as well. Have you ever posted, reposted, pinned, commented on, hashtag, or shared you have participated? Most of us never think of ourselves as media flamethrowers, but if you ever notice an opinion, you have been one. That's a good thing. Sometimes the only way to take a stand is to hold on to your ideals. But if your opinion causes someone else to feel uncomfortable, that flame gets a little bit more out of control. Maybe no harm was done, but nevertheless, now we have a bit more heat than we might have been prepared to handle. And if someone takes that opinion and embellishes it in a way you have not intended, now you become the victim of another person's flamethrowing. Your opinion might now be more racist, political, or insensitive than you ever planned. No, you didn't start the fire, but you might have lit a match. What is controversial to someone may not affect another in the same way. The recent pandemic experience demonstrates this so well. You have people protesting the shutdown while others beg for the country to stay open. Why such opposite reactions? Because when it comes to any media, there will always be flamethrowers and firefighters. There will always be two sides to every story. And if it was anything less, we would certainly be a country far more restricted in the freedom of speech. Flamethrowers do not necessarily start rumors or gossip. I was a media flamethrower myself this week. I saw a YouTube video that made me question many things. Sent to me by a long friend, I passed it on to others. I didn't know if everything I saw and heard is accurate. I reacted because it mattered to me. Have you heard some media flamethrowers lately? Some told you to shelter in place, and some have told you just to live your life. Some flamethrowers have shut down businesses, and others have opened them up. Now, some media flamethrowers are sharing that a high percentage of people hospitalized due to the virus have been those who were sheltering at home. Flamethrowers have strong opinions, bold reactions, and decisive resolutions. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It means this is how they respond. Firefighters come into a crisis and try to control it. Sometimes they can, and sometimes they can't. When they can't, it doesn't mean they didn't do their job. It just means the results were not what they hoped for. In a recent article, I wrote about how easy it is not recognize yourself in this current pandemic crisis, but sometimes I realize more is maybe during a crisis we actually become who we always were meant to be. Maybe a crisis brings the rawness, the transparency, the deepest of thoughts and feelings. Maybe in a crisis we find that part of ourselves, everyday life, has jaded and worn down. Perhaps authentically, really metamorphosed from a crisis. So maybe we need to break in order to truly rebuild. Maybe that's why they call it breaking news. We didn't start the fire, but I bet we have started some. Maybe they were tiny fires that burned out on their own, or maybe they were larger ones that affect us throughout our lives. Flamethrowers don't necessarily start fires to be destructive, although some harm can turn that way. I recently watched the movie Richard Jewell. While I have read the director and producer took liberties with the script, there is no doubt the media threw a flame that ruined a life regardless of what actually was finally revealed. I know these times are unpredictable and constantly changing, but I think our easy access to information and over-the-top media has created a bit of a flamethrower in all of us. In an attempt to get the most current and updated information, we often succumb to half-hearted research and minimal discernment. I've heard several controversial pieces of media lately. I've shared some and held on to some. The ones I have not shared didn't make me a firefighter, they just made me less affected by the heat. Firefighters don't always save people either. They mean well, but sometimes people can't be rescued. Maybe you found the flames of a media story or tried to censor its popularity. Maybe you have done absolutely nothing, but just because you don't watch the news, read the articles, or share your opinions, doesn't make you any more a firefighter than wearing a cowboy hat makes me Billy the Kid. We are stuck with the media we have, some true, some false, and some a combination of both. We have spent weeks watching, listening to, and reading the opinions of experts with highly respected degrees work in exceptional regarded institutions. But degrees and expertise do not make one either a flamethrower or a firefighter. When people hear information, they mull it over and come to conclusions. Sometimes they convict, and sometimes they forgive. How have you been handling the constant barrage of media on every subject from COVID-19 to the crumbling economy, the political candidates to the body bags, the lockdowns to the letdowns? Did you decide to convict or forgive, or is the jury still out? Obviously, anytime we tune into any media, we get some story. Sometimes you're asked to create the other half of the story. Sometimes you only get the introduction. Maybe it seems like that now. Maybe it seems you're reading a story that you never would have chosen to read, in a genre you have little interest in, with characters you can't relate to. How do you do truth when every time you believe you've discovered it, it moves somewhere else? The generation alive now has a story to tell. It may not be the story we wanted to tell, or one we never thought we would need to tell. But we do have an obligation to make sure that the history we are living now gets heard, the flamethrower side and the firefighter side. Because there are two sides to every story, and if we are censored and cannot share them, then there's no story to tell. It will be as if this never happened. Yes, the media lies, but it also has truth. The media has facts, but it also has gossip. The media has blackouts, but it also has clarity. The media is both a flamethrower and a firefighter, and again, as Billy Joel says, it was always burning since the world was turning. I write what I think. I speak what I feel. I hope you write and speak what you think and feel as well. And don't worry about what others think about you. It's your story. They have their story. Wouldn't life be boring if there is only one story? We must share all of this, every idea, every thought, every word. What about the social media circus has made you a flamethrower or a firefighter?